Hello and welcome to Antinatalism This Week. Tali Sharot is a neuroscientist and author of many books. Among them is The Optimism Bias, a tour of the irrationally positive brain. There was a podcast recently in which she talked to Peter Singer about optimism bias and habituation. She explains pros and cons of habituation and optimism bias and how even non human animals have optimism bias. This podcast is not actually about antinatalism. In fact, the last few minutes are disappointing, where Tali talks about her children, which I assume are her biological children. But even then, optimism bias and habituation are important to antinatalist arguments related to quality of life. Both help us in reducing stress. In that way, they help those who already exist. But they are also evolutionarily selected because they help propagate one's genes. So we tend to underestimate the risks that we are imposing on our children by having them. This is why this podcast is extremely valuable, where Tali shares so many different aspects of optimism bias, optimism, and pessimism bias, along with habituation and the principle of diminishing returns, as well as diminishing mental reactions. A Portuguese channel whose name I can't say, but it translates to something like "Does anyone think here?" that had a voiceover video about David Benatar and antinatalism. It was more of a collection of sentences which evoke antinatalist sentiments rather than logical construction of arguments. Still valuable if that's what you prefer. Tantirs Humble, that's the name of a YouTube channel which recently made a very entertaining animated film about why young people are not having kids. Most of the video is dedicated to poor financial health of millennials and Gen Z as a reason for them to not have kids, mainly in the US. But there is a section at the end which lightly invokes the ethical concerns of having children and antinatalism. And the whole video is fast, light-hearted comedy, and so a must watch for anyone who is antinatalist or child-free. Danny Shine made an excellent video, A Letter to My Daughter's Future Partners. It is a brilliant script with a comic effect and yet very strong words for those who wish to have children. For anyone who thinks about legacy or passing on your genes or any other fallacious arguments for having children, this is a must-watch video. Really good work by Danny. Now, here's a news about some antinatalist merchandise. Lawrence has been making different kinds of antinatalist materials. His Antinatalist Social Club t-shirt continues to be available for anyone to order. But on top of that, he is also making antinatalist stickers. He recently made a video talking about all of this and showing his new stickers. It's a pack of 5 stickers with quotes from Arthur Schopenhauer, Peter Wiesel-Zapfe, and Emil Sharon with their photos on them. This was a hit product and all 50 packs were immediately sold out. Well, they were given out for free, but still that shows the demand that these stickers have. And so he is compiling another set of stickers, and you can provide your suggestions here in comments on his post. Here's a tragic news about something which could have prevented creation of new lives. Trump administration to destroy nearly $10 million of contraceptives for women overseas. That's the headline in The Guardian. These are long-acting contraceptives like IUDs and birth control implants. They were meant to be distributed to women in poor countries, war zones, and refugee camps. These women don't even have access to safe abortion. Sarah Shaw from MSI Reproductive Choices say, if you have an unintended pregnancy and you end up having to seek unsafe abortion, it's quite likely that you will die. Many countries in Africa are running out on contraceptives. Countries like Burkina Faso, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Tanzania, Timor-Leste, Senegal, Kenya, Sierra Leone, and so on. And Trump administration has decided to burn the much-needed stocks of these contraceptives. It's not just about empty shelves, Shaw says. It's about unfulfilled potential. It's about a girl having to drop out of school. It's about someone having to seek an unsafe abortion, risking their lives. New data on births in 2024 in the United States was published by CDC. This chart shows the total number of births and general fertility rate. The blue bars are 2023 and green ones are 2024. As you can see, there is a slight increase in total number of births in 2024 as compared to 2023. However, general fertility rate, which is the number of children born per 1,000 women of fertile age, has dropped by 1%. This chart shows general fertility by age of stepmother. And again, the comparison is between 2023 and 2024. As you can see, in all age brackets ranging from 15 to 34, there is a decline in number of children. The only increase is in the age bracket of 40 to 44. That means women are delaying having children. In a way, that's a good thing. It's a sign that women are giving more thought to having children, but also, and more importantly, fewer children are born. The conversation had a similar but descriptive article about declining birth rates. Fears that falling birth rates in US could lead to population collapse are based on faulty assumptions. It points to some errors that people like Elon Musk make just by looking at fertility rates. A large part of falling fertility rates in the US is due to declining teen pregnancies, which anyone other than Epstein's friends would welcome. This chart, for example, compared total fertility rate with the average number of children born to women aged 40 to 44. The dotted line is fertility rate and it is falling since 1990s. But the average number of children born to women aged 40 to 44 shown by green line here has remained mostly constant at around 2. That's because someone who is in their 20s and have 0 children are still likely to have a couple of children by the time they reach the age of 44. The other point is pronatalists ignore short-term consequences of increasing birth rates. Their policies also adversely impact women. Pronatalists policies that discourage women's employment are at odds with concerns about a diminishing number of workers. Finally, the article claims that overall, there is no evidence for Elon Musk's assertion that humanity is dying. Colleges are reaping the Anti-Natalist Whirlwind is an article that criticizes specific form of antinatalism and in a very eloquent language. The idea is colleges in US are seeing decline in student admissions as an effect of fewer children being born since like 18 to 20 years. But this decline is brought by academics themselves. Most of highly educated and especially academic women, for example, don't have children. On these campuses, having large families is seen as regressive action. This, as article puts, is a result of deeper shifts from the collective to individual and from a perceived idealism to practical utilitarianism. For much of Western history, it was held that behind each work there stood some conception of its perfect execution, but utilitarianism teaches that work is use and not worship. Modernity thinks not of subordinating self to end, but of subordinating end to self. There are no craftsmen in such a moral metaphysic, only the tawdry monotony of producer and consumer, the imposition of will and desire upon brute nature. Now, I'm not sure if this author understands that it is in procreation that we do imposition. We impose life on a being which wasn't deprived of it to start with. Still, it is an interesting article to read just because of the way it was written, but that raises a question which was not answered. If you think that having more children is a solution to declining student admissions, then were colleges made to serve students, or are students just fodder for the education industry to perpetuate? Asaki Hozumi wrote a piece, Why Bartkus Was Wrong to Bomb IVF Clinic from Antinatalist Activists' Perspective. Asaki's main focus here is on antinatalism activism. Violent activities is not good PR for any movement, and it is certainly not for antinatalism rooted in ethics and compassion. Many of those who had their very first encounter with the term antinatalism because of the bombing will most likely see it as a dangerous ideology due to the fact that someone who supported this view hurt someone with an actual weapon. And this is going to affect those who are advocating for antinatalism too. Someone who was open to talk about antinatalism might think that they might get stereotyped as a terrorist or even worse, watched by police. And so violence as a means to spread messages can easily undermine the very movement one wants to contribute to by taking human resources away, just like Bartkus may have done. Finally, just a quick update on Antinatalism Events. Another European tour of Nimrod is almost coming to an end. In fact, his last stop is in Berlin, which is happening at the time of recording of this video. Before that, here he was on his visit to Leipzig in Germany. Nimrod is unstoppable, and I think we will see more of these in future. Park Philosophy was held in Finland earlier this month. Mati Hairi was invited to this to give a talk on antinatalism, and I have it confirmed that the recording of this talk will soon be made available on the Exploring Antinatalism podcast. And just a reminder that Child Free Convention is coming up. It will be on 1st of August, but unlike the conventions in the past, which were live events, this will be a pre-recorded session and will be available on their YouTube channel. And they also have 2025 Child Free Convention t-shirts on sale if you want to buy one to support them. And those were the stories for this week. Thanks for watching and see you next time.